Crypto Kids, welcome back to another video. I know it's been a while. The price of Bitcoin has been dumping. Now, we were talking about Bitcoin when it was at like $66,500, and I was saying that Bitcoin will likely drop to the $59,000 level, and that's exactly what Bitcoin has done. And now it's seeing a reversal from this point onwards. But the truth is, we need to be cautious. The Bitcoin halving is within 1 day and 10 hours. So it's going to be a very important 48 hours for Bitcoin. I have a lot of research compiled for you. None of this you'll get in any other crypto YouTuber, so make sure to stay tuned until the end of this video. Leave a like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and we will get through everything. So bear with me. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic video filled with so much information. But yeah, with that said, if you've left a like, let's jump straight into it. I've been stuck in my house for the past 3 to 4 days. I don't know if you're following up with the news, but Dubai is pretty much underwater. I've seen comments, people saying, are you okay? Is everything fine? Well, for the first 2 days, everything was not fine. We had to mop out water. Like, I'm still stuck at home because it's impossible to get out. I tried to go to Token 2049, but because Ubers don't work, Da Vinci had to send me his driver because I can't drive, right? So we kind of tried, but halfway through we had to go back. Roads are closed, so it's not too great out here if you're in Dubai. I hope everybody is safe. But what is safe, or trying to be safe, and I know that was a terrible segue, but Bitcoin is trying to increase and head back up towards prior resistance levels. The question is, will it be able to do that? Now, in the immediate short term, we were talking about Bitcoin again when it was at like 66.5K. We had geopolitical status being very elevated. That elevation has thankfully reduced a lot, but we still need to be very cautious because by Saturday, or on Saturday specifically, God forbid, there may be a retaliation. And if we do have that, then risk on assets such as Bitcoin will decrease, just like what we saw last weekend, whereas the value of the dollar will increase because that's what happens during certain uncertainties, and the stock market will fall down. The stock market wiped some of the most gains it produced ever since October. It's been the hardest fall on the stock market since October 2023. Gold is running and it will continue to run. The reason why Bitcoin is not following gold, I will get into later on in this video. And long-term treasuries are going upwards due to heightened interest rates. So interest rates have not gone up, but it is super likely that we will have higher interest rates for a longer amount of time, and that is causing pressure on the economy, specifically oil, which has tumbled. But you know, we will cover this in a bit more detail in just a couple of minutes. In the immediate short term, Bitcoin is forming a bullish divergence on the 4-hourly time frame. So if this bullish divergence plays and continues playing like we're trying to see here on the past few candles, then I think Bitcoin will make it back to the $64,000, $65,000 level. That's what I'm expecting for Bitcoin. If we break this resistance line, then I think Bitcoin will be able to head back into the 66.6K territories, but it will be super important for Bitcoin to break above that, because if we do not break above 66.6, then I think Bitcoin will likely head towards the downside. Now, a bonus for this video is this incredible indicator, which I'm going to be using every time from this video onwards, and it's the moon phases. Now, do not call me a stupid guy that doesn't know technical analysis and I'm using astrology to predict the markets. Look, it's literally here. It works perfectly. When there is a full moon, the markets pump, right? Look, okay, sometimes there's exceptions, but when there's a full moon, markets pump. When there's a new moon, markets dump. Full moon, pump, new moon, dump. Like, it's been working textbook. So I will be using this indicator from now and onwards. I think we should be having a full moon pretty soon. So that should, in theory, indicate a pump upwards. And if that's the case, I think Bitcoin, based off of this indicator, I think 66.6K is possible, but we do need to be careful. We may be forming some sort of a double top structure here. And if that happens, of course, it would not be ideal whatsoever. I don't know why my moving averages are not loading. Let's try and reload this tab if it's possible. So reload tab, reload without saving. Let's see if it's going to work. I think it's the Wi-Fi connectivity issues. But anyways, we have very important moving average crossovers taking place within this week and next week, right? And they're towards the bearish side. Okay, it looks like Wi-Fi isn't coming back, so you'll have to trust me on this one. We have a couple of moving averages crossing into each other. I'll put a full detailed update on Telegram later on, but because of that, I am starting to flip a little bit bearish. If we do see these crossovers, I think in the short term it's possible that Bitcoin pumps a little bit more, but I think after the halving or on the halving day, which is going to be taking place in literally 1 day and 10 hours, Bitcoin may experience a slight correction downwards. But I think in the overall macro picture, Bitcoin is actually doing fantastically well because we had so much FUD in the past week, and Bitcoin has only dropped to our $59,000. So that could have been the bottom, but we still need to be careful, right? I am accumulating Bitcoin on a daily basis. My Bitcoin long position on my personal account and on the Bitflex $10,000 trading challenge that is still going on with our take profit at 92K. So I've not closed any of those things. I just think that we still need to be a little bit more cautious this week particularly. But after we go out of this week, I think Bitcoin will have a further move towards the upside. So the first very bearish piece of information that we got starting this week was that, okay, hold on. Actually, we got bullish news. We said that the Hong Kong spot ETFs were approved and that we would have a short-term rebound towards the upside. That's what the markets did. But then we got this news. So apparently Chinese investors will not be able to be eligible to purchase Hong Kong spot ETFs. That was the one singular thing that we were so bullish about because in that part of the world, people have not accumulated Bitcoin yet. And it looks like that will still be the case in the future. People were estimating $25 billion worth of inflows to these ETFs in particular, but Bloomberg has readjusted their plans down to $1 billion in the first 2 years. So it's not looking too good. The Hong Kong spot ETFs have turned out to be a flop. We're expecting them to start trading next week because they didn't want to ironically compete with the Dubai conference, which nobody is attending. And Eric here has said they'll be lucky to get $500 million down from the $1 billion previous estimate that he posted. So it's not looking too great for these ETFs. The Hong Kong spot ETF market is tiny if you eliminate China. And the locals are not going to be able to purchase these. That may change in the future, but we are not certain. And the 3 issuers who are approved for launch are actually very tiny. So they do not manage any capital. Well, they do manage capital, but it's nothing significant. And on top of this, the market itself is only $50 billion. Whereas if we go into the total accumulated only Bitcoin in the US spot ETF market, then that's over 50 billion already. So you can kind of get that comparison. There's going to be less liquidity, therefore less efficiency, and fees will be higher. So do not expect too many things from this. I think we do still need another catalyst to push Bitcoin to 90K. And I think that will happen. I think that the halving is definitely one of those catalysts. But once altcoins start to see huge moves towards the upside, retail will be automatically driven back. So I do expect the long term for Bitcoin to be okay. In approximately 1 day and 9 hours, we should be seeing the Bitcoin halving coming to the market. Now, looking at the Bitcoin halving on the immediate short term, we don't tend to see too much price action like a day before or the day after. But Bitcoin does dump going into it. Now, we can argue, was that the halving that we saw the dump? Was it the new moon phase that we saw the dump? Or was it the geopolitical risk? I think it's a mix of both. I don't think it's anything to do with the halving personally. But I think it's just, a nice, or, not a nice coincidence, but a coincidence that the Bitcoin halving and this Bitcoin correction came in at the same time. I think it's a mix of multiple things, but the good news is that the actual surge trends for the Bitcoin halving term has skyrocketed to levels never before seen ever. Like in 2020, it was a popular thing. It was when I first started crypto, but now it's way more popular. And this shows the amount of interest that people have against Bitcoin, and that's a super, super bullish thing. But if we look in the short term, the returns for the halving is a sell the news event. But Bitcoin has risen 19.03% on average in the month preceding the halving versus a 1.7% increase in the month following the halving. So the actual halving event, it tends to be a buy the rumor, sell the news event. So coming up to it, Bitcoin pumps, and then after the halving event, Bitcoin usually only pumps a small percentage. And that's why we may experience a little bit of a correction, a bit more of a correction in the upcoming month, which would be okay, but we just need to zoom out and remember on the macro picture that Bitcoin has come so far in such a short amount of time, and the markets do tend to punish this ideology. When something pumps a lot in a short amount of time, you tend to see a correction that also supersedes that magnitude of increase that you experienced. And another interesting data point to look at is actually that the gold production is at an all-time high, as well as the price of gold being at an all-time high at the same time, right? But if we look at Bitcoin as an asset, the newly mined Bitcoin supply is dropping every time that Bitcoin continues going higher. So that's another comparison point that we can look at when we want to prove that Bitcoin is actually the better asset. Once you look at an inflationary hedge, but as we said, it's just going to take some time until Bitcoin reaches that level of maturity. And once it does, by the way, that's when it's going to be too late. So now is the time. Now when there is risk, that's usually the time to be early on an asset and to accumulate an asset. Of course, it's nothing in this video is financial advice, but if you go historically speaking, that is the time to be accumulating such assets. Now, another interesting point is, of course, what is going to be happening to Bitcoin with geopolitical risk? Why has it dumped after geopolitical risks heightened, whereas the price of gold, for example, surged, right? Well, Andrew Ross Sorkin, no matter how much we hate on his views against Bitcoin, he did propose a very important question, and that is, why did Bitcoin dump following geopolitical risk? Now, we had a couple of very, very nice answers, and some include, or actually just Peter Schiff was the stupidest answer I've ever seen in my life. But, you know, we saw Lawrence Leppard say Bitcoin is the best indicator of global liquidity trends. What this dip tells me is that the stock market is about to get smoked, which is exactly what happened. Then Jack Muller said something similar, and Willy Woo mentioned that it's a nascent asset class, meaning it's a new asset class, so it trades more as a risk-on asset. And then Peter Schiff is like, there's nothing to understand. Bitcoin is neither a safe haven, a store of value, nor an inflationary hedge, etc. Blah blah blah. The usual rant that he's on. So yeah, I mean, Bitcoin. Look, it's a new asset class, like we said. It's going to take time. It's only like 15 years old. When gold first started as an asset, it was super volatile, and then after a couple of decades passed, then it got to the level where it is right now. So it will take time, but I think the explanation given by Lawrence was the best. Bitcoin is the only huge, massively adopted asset in the world that is online 24/7 and can have a reaction to a particular news event immediately, right, on the market. Even if it's a weekend. So I think that's the revolutionary nature of Bitcoin, and that's why we saw a short-term correction after we had the geopolitical risk. If it continues, then of course Bitcoin will continue reacting in a negative way. Now, the fear and greed for Bitcoin is at a greed level. So I personally think that if you're dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin, then it may be a good time to maybe even scale that up a little bit more. In terms of the Bitcoin spot ETFs, we've been having a net outflow week once again from Bitcoin because we've been seeing a correction further down. But what interests me a lot is that Grayscale is not having significant inflows compared to the previous weeks, because when Bitcoin fell in the previous weeks, the amount of outflows from GBTC was significantly higher than what we saw last time. So the numbers are not scary, which is good. I mean, if we look at the past 3-4 months, the amount of Bitcoin held in Grayscale has halved, right? So that's a huge number. The only concerning thing is that IBIT had the lowest amount of inflows in its entire history. So that needs to go back up, but that will require a rebound in the crypto markets. If we do see that rebound and we find good support at 59K after potentially retesting it one more time, then I think we will be going to the moon in the upcoming months. IBIT is flippening soon the amount of Bitcoin GBTC has under their account. And once that happens, once Grayscale becomes irrelevant, we won't have a single entity dumping the Bitcoin markets constantly on a daily basis. And that should clear the skies for Bitcoin to, again, continue trading towards the upside. An important date to remember is May 15th, because on May 15th, all major asset managers, all major funds, etc., will have to reveal exactly which assets they keep in their portfolio. So on May 15th, if we see like huge corporations say that they hold IBIT in their portfolio, then that should create more speculative news to pump Bitcoin further towards the upside. And finally, FOMC is within 13 days and 1 hour. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to try go to token 2049 again tomorrow, so wish me luck. And I need to shave because there's all barbers have been closed, nothing is open, but I did find one, so I will check that out after I post this video. But guys and girls, have a great day, stay safe, and I will see you all on the next video very soon. Take care everyone, and bye-bye.